You won't believe what unfolded live on Newsmax. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a leading figure of the progressive left, launched a strong critique of the Trump administration, labeling it racist and a threat to democracy. But what she didn't anticipate was Karoline Leavitt's youngest white House Press Secretary ready with a pointed and relentless rebuttal. Within minutes, Leavitt seized control of the conversation, turning Ocasio-Cortez's accusations into opportunities to expose perceived flaws in the progressive platform. From the term Latinx to gender education and immigration policy, Leavitt dissected each point with precision. The studio fell into stunned silence. The host watched intently. The audience responded with a mix of surprise and energy. It wasn't just another political exchange, it was a clash of ideologies with implications that stretched far beyond the studio. As the program opened, host Jake Morrison stepped into the spotlight with his trademark calm and authoritative presence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "in an America increasingly divided by politics and culture, dialogue, no matter how difficult, remains essential. Tonight, we bring you a candid, direct exchange between two powerful voices of a changing nation." The audience erupted as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez entered first, dressed sharply and projecting confidence. She smiled to the crowd, but her focused expression hinted at the intensity to come. Then came Karoline Leavitt, composed and poised, her gaze unwavering as she nodded to Morrison, ready to engage. Morrison opened the debate with a deceptively simple topic that has sparked national controversy: the use of the word Latinx. "This isn't just about language," Morrison said. "It's a question of identity, inclusion, and how we define ourselves as a society." Ocasio-Cortez began with passion. "Inclusive language like Latinx is essential. It creates space and respect for all gender identities within the Latin community," she declared, her gestures reinforcing her message. Scattered applause followed. Leavitt waited, then replied with calm precision, "Inclusivity is important, but let's ground the discussion in facts. According to Pew Research, 68% of Hispanic Americans reject the term Latinx, viewing it as disconnected from their cultural roots. I recently spoke to Maria, a small business owner in Arizona, who said the term makes her feel like her heritage is being erased." She paused. "Is it truly inclusive if the very community it's meant to represent overwhelmingly rejects it?" The room grew quiet. Ocasio-Cortez, momentarily caught off guard, pushed back. "Language evolves in terms like Latinx help us move forward and embrace diversity," she said, though her response didn't carry the same impact. Leavitt's point had landed. Maria, Leavitt added, "isn't resisting change, she's defending her identity." And in that moment, the tone of the debate was set. Leavitt shot back, her voice steady and full of confidence. She explained that she voted for Trump because he spoke to people like her, he listened, not imposed labels. In Texas, an 85% Latino district swung Republican in the last election, she pointed out. "That's a clear rejection of the kind of policies you're pushing." Applause broke out from the audience, and AOC's discomfort was visible. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had just gone on the offensive, labeling the Trump administration as racist and a threat to democracy. What she didn't anticipate was Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in history, firing back with a sharp and relentless counterattack. In a matter of minutes, Leavitt flipped the conversation, turning AOC's criticisms into traps and systematically challenging the foundations of the progressive ideology she defends. From the use of the term Latinx to topics like gender education and immigration, Leavitt delivered blow after blow. The studio fell into silence. The host observed closely, and the audience responded with energy. This wasn't just a debate, it was a full-scale ideological clash that could shape the national conversation. Under the glare of the studio lights, time seemed to freeze as the opening bell signaled the start of a tense face-off. Host Jake Morrison stepped into view with his familiar, calm confidence, the voice of someone seasoned in navigating fiery debates. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, in a country divided by politics and culture, "open dialogue remains our best hope for understanding and progress. Tonight, We present an unfiltered exchange between two voices that define the political landscape of a new generation. The crowd erupted in applause as AOC entered first, poised and sharply dressed, waving confidently though her expression carried unmistakable intensity. Moments later, Karoline Leavitt walked out, platinum hair catching the light, her gaze focused and unshaken. She nodded to Morrison, ready for the battle ahead. Morrison turned to the crowd with composed authority. Let's begin with a term that has sparked debate across communities and politics, Latinx. It's more than a word. It reflects the way we see identity and inclusion in today's society. AOC began, her tone passionate. Inclusive language like Latinx is essential. It helps create space for everyone and reflects the diversity we have. Should celebrate, she said, punctuating her point with emphatic gestures. The audience responded with light applause. Leavitt watched carefully, then offered a slight smile. The intention behind inclusivity is noble, she began, but the reality tells a different story. According to Pew Research, 68% of Hispanic Americans reject the term Latinx. Many find it offensive to their heritage. I spoke with Maria, a small business owner from Arizona, who told me it makes her feel like her Mexican identity is being erased. Is it truly representation when the community doesn't want the label? The studio quieted as the weight of the question settled. AOC, momentarily caught off guard, pushed back. Language evolves. Latinx creates space for those outside traditional gender identities, she argued. But the conviction in her voice wavered under the pressure. Leavitt held her ground, and the debate had only just begun. Waiting patiently, Leavitt seized her moment. Ocasio-Cortez, inclusivity is a noble goal, but let's talk about reality, she said, her voice calm but cutting. Pew Research shows 68% of Hispanic Americans reject the term Latinx, saying it offends their heritage. I spoke with Maria, a small business owner in Arizona, who told me it makes her feel like her Mexican culture is being erased. The community doesn't want the label as imposing, it really representation. The room fell silent. AOC looked momentarily unsettled, trying to steady herself. Language drives progress, she replied. Terms like Latinx create space for those who don't fit traditional definitions. But her words struggled to land with the same force. Leavitt didn't hesitate. Maria's not resisting progress, she's defending her identity, Leavitt said, her confidence rising. She voted for Trump because he listened. He didn't try to redefine her. Then she delivered a striking statistic. In Texas, a district that's 85% Latino just swung Republican. That's not a coincidence, it's a rejection of the policies you represent. Applause broke out across the studio. AOC's discomfort was now unmistakable. Under pressure, AOC pushed forward with forced confidence. We need to be more inclusive. With language to support transgender people, abortion rights aren't just women's rights, they're for anyone who can carry a pregnancy. She tried to keep her voice steady, but murmurs stirred in the audience, questioning the practicality of her position. Leavitt didn't back off. I met Sarah, a nurse and single mom in Ohio, fighting to protect abortion access, she said. She told me that being called a birthing person made her feel erased as if her identity as a woman didn't matter. She wants her rights protected, not her language rewritten. Leavitt paused, letting the weight of the story settle. Then she turned to AOC. Tell me, how does calling Sarah a birthing person make her feel more represented? The audience clapped again. AOC, still composed on the outside, was beginning to falter. We need language that reflects our society's diversity, she answered. Otherwise, we risk leaving marginalized people behind. But the strength in her voice had faded. The conviction she entered with now met the full force of Leavitt's challenge. Diversity doesn't mean ignoring the majority, Leavitt responded coolly. Last campaign, I spoke to women across Pennsylvania. They're asking for policy. Solutions, not language experiments. When you substitute birthing people for women, you're muddying a clear issue, she continued, unwavering. According to Rasmussen, 65% of voters believe woke language actually undermines the abortion rights message. How does that help? The applause this time was louder, sharper. AOC tried to regroup, if to fight for a just future one. Where everyone is recognized, she said, but her tone wavered. Leavitt saw the opening and pressed in. Justice starts with respecting those already in the fight, she said, her eyes locked forward. Leavitt's eyes stayed locked on AOC. I asked my Instagram followers a simple question. How do you feel when abortion rights are redefined? Using new language, thousands of women responded. They said they want to be called women, not birthing people. That post reached over 3 million views. Then, turning directly to her opponent, she asked, Miss Ocasio-Cortez, do you think? These women are wrong for wanting to keep their identity. AOC hesitated, offering only, I will consider their feedback. Leavitt didn't slow down. President Trump's campaign is focused on protecting women's rights in real, practical terms, not by using language that alienates the very people you claim to represent. Changing the words doesn't just isolate voters, it weakens the movement. That's why Democrats are losing support from women like Sarah in Ohio. They want leaders who will fight for them, not debate semantics. The crowd erupted in applause. Host Jake Morrison raised a hand, urging calm. The tension in the studio was palpable. One more verbal volley, and the debate might have boiled over.
Not allowing the moment to linger, Morrison shifted gears.
You both for those perspectives. Let's turn to another vital issue, education, he said. It's not just the cornerstone of personal opportunities, also where the divide between parties is perhaps most visible. Republicans are calling for a return to discipline, greater parental involvement, and limiting ideological influence in classrooms. Progressives, meanwhile, are advocating for a sweeping overhaul to achieve equity from the ground up. Before he could even finish, AOC stood, ready. Her earlier hesitation had vanished. Her voice rang out with conviction. Education is the bedrock of equality, she declared. If we want a just America, we have to invest in public schools seriously. That means paying teachers fairly, ensuring safe classrooms, and ending a system where a child's zip code determines their destiny. She paused, letting her words hang in the air, one hand resting firmly on the podium. The word equity echoed like a vow. There was applause measured, not overwhelming, but enough to build momentum. Leavitt remained still, focused, fingers wrapped around the mic. She didn't rush. Her response was deliberate, quiet, controlled, like a drawn bow waiting to release. Ocasio-Cortez, she began, her tone level and piercing. Equity may sound admirable, but democratic policies are setting our students up for failure. Between 2020 and 2023, national test scores dropped dramatically. For 13-year-olds, math scores fell 9 points, reading by 4 the steepest decline in 50 years. She looked out over the audience. That's the real result of your agenda. Underperforming teachers tie schools' hands and kids pay the price. Do you think that's fair? Leavitt asked, her words cutting straight through AOC's. Opponents, clearly under pressure, attempted to respond. We need to protect teachers. They're the backbone of our education system. Equity means making sure every student, especially in minority communities, has access to quality learning. But her response felt hollow. Murmurs from the audience suggested they sensed the weakness in her argument. Leavitt pressed on without pause. I met Lisa, a parent from my hometown in New Hampshire. Her 8th grade son struggles to read. His teacher consistently underperforms but still keeps the job, Lisa told me. I want my son to have a chance. The system is holding him back. She paused for effect, then turned sharply to AOC. Miss Ocasio-Cortez, how does protecting underperforming teachers help Lisa's son? The silence in the studio deepened. Audience members nodded in agreement. AOC tried to recover. We must invest more in education, especially in underserved areas, to support both teachers and students, she said. But her voice trembled slightly, and Leavitt saw her opening. Investment is necessary, Leavitt replied, her tone unwavering, but not at the cost of keeping teachers who fail their students. A Brookings Institution study found that retaining underperforming teachers reduces student learning outcomes by 15% in public schools. She continued with force. Meanwhile, Trump's 2.0 education platform supports charter schools and vocational programs, offering kids like Lisa's son real opportunities. So I ask, how do your equity policies help minority students when their test scores continue to decline? The applause was immediate and loud. AOC's composure wavered. Trying to regain control, AOC said, "We need a comprehensive education, a system that leaves no one behind." But her words fell flat. A comprehensive system doesn't mean sacrificing quality, Leavitt countered. Her eyes didn't leave AOC. On social media, I asked parents what they think of our education system today. Thousands responded, from moms in Florida to families in California, and they all want better teachers and schools focused on practical skills. That post reached over 4 million views. Miss Ocasio-Cortez, are you listening to these parents?
Oh.
Could only offer the same reply. I will consider their feedback. Leavitt's voice swelled with momentum. President Trump's campaign is about empowering parents, encouraging school choice, and making sure our kids learn from competent educators. When you defend a system that protects failing teachers, you're not helping minority students who are hurting them. That's why families in places like Texas and Arizona are walking away from the Democratic Party. The studio hadn't cooled. If anything, the energy intensified. Topic after topic, ratings, abortion rights, education, had seen Leavitt land blow after blow against the progressive ideas AOC stood for. The audience, once open-minded, now leaned firmly toward Leavitt, cheering with each crisp rebuttal. Her presence was steady, focused, not as if she were in a debate, but as if she were making a decisive political statement. Host Jake Morrison scanned the room, sensing the shift. He raised his voice to transition. And now, ladies and gentlemen, he announced, we move to our final topic of the night, a subject that continues to dominate headlines across the country: immigration. AOC's voice filled with urgency. Immigration is a humanitarian issue, she declared. We must dismantle harmful structures like ICE and build a fair, welcoming system for those seeking the American dream. Her gaze swept the audience. Reaching for empathy, few polite claps followed. Leavitt, calm and composed, was ready. Miss Ocasio-Cortez, humanitarianism is noble, she said, her voice even but edged. But your open border policies are harming the very Americans you claim to stand for, she continued, unwavering. From 2021 to 2024, U.S. Customs and Border Protection recorded over 2.5 million illegal crossings at the southern border. Border communities in Texas and Arizona are under immense strain, from job competition to housing shortages to rising safety concerns. Who exactly are your policies helping? Leavitt asked, her question slicing clean through AOC's position. AOC tried to push back. We must treat immigrants as human beings, not criminals. Abolishing ICE is a step toward a more compassionate system. But her voice lacked weight, and the crowd sensed the instability in her stance. Leavitt didn't ease up.
I spoke with
Carlos, Mexican-American construction worker in Texas. He told me he lost his job because contractors hired undocumented immigrants at lower wages. He's not against immigration, he just wants a fair shot. So, Miss Ocasio-Cortez, how does abolishing ICE help Americans like Carlos keep their jobs? The story landed heavily. Applause broke out. AOC tried again. We need comprehensive reform, not just border enforcement, but support for immigrant integration too. Her voice, however, was beginning to falter. Leavitt seized the moment. Reform is essential, but not at the cost of border control. Her tone was forceful, cutting through any remaining ambiguity. According to the Department of Homeland Security, crimes related to illegal immigration in border states have risen 20% over the past 3 years. Families in Arizona and Texas are worried not just about the economy, but about safety. Pressed on. Trump's 2.0 administration is working to secure the border and create stable jobs for American workers, people like Carlos. So tell us, who exactly are your open border policies protecting? The audience erupted with applause. Once more, AOC attempted to respond, her voice more tempered now. We need an immigration system based on humanity, not fear. But her words couldn't slow Leavitt's momentum. Humanitarianism, Leavitt replied firmly, doesn't mean ignoring the safety and livelihoods of Americans. Her eyes burned with intensity. Just last week, I asked people on X what they thought of our current immigration system. Thousands from Texas, Arizona, even New Hampshire responded. They want secure borders and protected jobs. That post had over 5 million views. Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, have you read what those people are saying? AOC could only reply once again. I will consider their feedback, Leavitt continued, unwavering. President Trump's campaign is focused on defending borders and putting American workers first. Abolishing ICE doesn't help the immigrant community, it hurts families like Carlos's, who are pushed out of the job market. That's why states like Texas are backing Trump overwhelmingly. The studio was still. Leavitt's words were more than rhetoric. They echoed the concerns, fears, and realities of millions. For once, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known for her confident, impassioned rhetoric, was quiet. Her hands gripped the microphone, but she didn't immediately raise it. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her expression. Host Jake Morrison stepped forward, breaking the tension. A debate isn't about winning or losing. It's about listening, about confronting what divides us. Fear and hope, preservation and progress. AOC finally spoke. I understand the concern about border security, but we can't let compassion fall by the wayside. Immigrants like Carlos aren't the problem, they're part of the American dream. System needs reform, yes, but that doesn't mean closing doors or turning our backs on people. This time she didn't appeal to the crowd. Her voice was softer but resolute. Single clap followed, then a few more, sparse but genuine. Leavitt nodded slightly, composed as ever. That's the difference, she said. One side speaks in ideals, the other speaks in priorities.
Yes.
I believe Americans are choosing clarity, order, and sovereignty. Jake Morrison stepped to center stage, his tone signaling the end. Tonight wasn't just about policy, it was about two competing visions for America. From language to education, reproductive rights to immigration, we've seen the fault lines clearly. And while the path forward won't be simple, debates like this move us one step closer. He looked to both women. Thank you to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Karoline Leavitt for showing that disagreement, when met with courage, can still shape this country's future. The audience rose in thunderous applause. For all the sparks and tension, they had witnessed something rare, a debate where both passion and reason took the stage. Leavitt's composed demeanor consistently outshined AOC across key topics such as Latinx issues, abortion rights, education, and immigration. As the stage lights dimmed and the audience filtered out, tension mounted backstage, highlighting the contrast between Leavitt's quiet confidence and the visible disarray in AOC's camp. The backstage atmosphere reinforced Leavitt's dominance and underscored AOC's struggles, quickly turning the debate into a trending topic across social media and major news outlets. In a corner of the waiting room, walked in with a tense expression, her hair slightly tousled from the intense exchange. Her team of advisors and media staff crowded around a small table. We need a strong social media message now, one advisor said urgently. Karoline hit us hard with her stats and personal stories, we have to respond. AOC stood with arms crossed, nodding slowly, but her eyes betrayed her disappointment. I didn't expect her to be so prepared, she whispered. The team began debating how to salvage AOC's image, but the lack of a clear strategy only added to the unease. Meanwhile, in a separate waiting room, Leavitt radiated calm. Seated comfortably and checking her phone, she glanced up as notifications poured in. Our immigration post just hit 6 million views, she told an assistant, a faint smile on her face. Her team, which included veterans from the Trump campaign, offered congratulations. You owned the stage, one advisor said, beaming. AOC didn't stand a chance. Leavitt remained focused. Let's keep pushing the message. Post more about how the Trump administration is listening to the people, she said firmly. Her team buzzed with energy and purpose, a stark contrast to the discord next door in the hallway. Newsmax staff exchanged whispers about the debate. Leavitt dominated, a technician said, adjusting his camera. AOC kept trying to pivot, but Karoline didn't let her off the hook. A producer nearby nodded. I've been doing this for years. Few people manage to be that calm and sharp at the same time. Leavitt knows how to turn every question into an opportunity. Those impressions spread quickly, picked up by reporters eager to frame Leavitt as the clear winner. Online, the reaction was immediate and intense. Leavitt's social media account, with 728,000 followers, lit up with praise. One post she shared moments after the debate: "The American people want security, jobs, and quality education, not woke policies," went viral, reinforcing her message and extending her reach far beyond the debate stage. The hashtag Leavitt quickly surged to the top of trending topics, with thousands of shares and users praising Karoline Leavitt for speaking the truth and defeating AOC with facts. Despite having a larger following, AOC's account was inundated with criticism. AOC couldn't answer a single question, one user posted. Another wrote, "Leavitt made her look like an amateur." AOC's media team attempted damage control, with a post highlighting her commitment to social justice, but it received only a lukewarm response. Media outlets jumped in immediately. Fox News ran the headline, "Karoline Leavitt overpowers AOC in fiery debate." A commentator on the network called her the new face of MAGA, smart, practical, and unafraid to confront. Meanwhile, left-leaning outlets like MSNBC struggled to defend AOC, praising her passion, but unable to ignore Leavitt's commanding performance. Even a CNN article acknowledged Leavitt came prepared, using data and real-life stories to dismantle AOC's arguments. These reactions only strengthened Leavitt's image as a rising conservative star. Backstage, she received a text from a Trump ally. "The president is impressed. Great job, Karoline." She smiled, pocketed her phone, and addressed her team. "This wasn't just a debate," she said. "It was a chance to show the country what we're doing to get America back. On track?" Her words energized her staff, who quickly began drafting posts to amplify the MAGA message. On AOC's side, the atmosphere remained tense. One advisor suggested a live online event to regain momentum, but AOC shook her head. "We need time to reassess," she said quietly. Her team understood. This wasn't just a bad night. It was a wake-up call. The progressive wing was losing traction to candidates like Leavitt, who connected with voters through clarity and pragmatism. As Leavitt exited the studio, she walked with purpose, knowing this was just the beginning. Her next post, "Thank you all for the support. We'll keep fighting for America," quickly racked up millions of interactions. Meanwhile, AOC's team faced a sobering reality. Leavitt hadn't just won the debate. She had taken control of the narrative. Leavitt's cool delivery and ability to communicate complex issues in relatable terms positioned her as a new symbol of the MAGA movement. Post-show analyses soon shifted toward economic policy, AOC's supposed stronghold. With positions like the Green New Deal and student debt cancellation, but Leavitt continued to challenge these ideas with sharp, accessible critiques. In a Newsmax interview aired after the debate, Leavitt appeared calm but assertive. When asked about AOC's belief that progressive economics promote fairness, she leaned in. "AOC talks about fairness, but her policies like the Green New Deal are canceling student debt tend up burdening the very workers she says she's fighting for," Leavitt said, locking eyes with the camera. "Inflation hit 7% in 2022. Families like Carlos's in Texas can't afford gas or groceries. How do her policies help them?" Backstage, AOC's team continued trying to reframe her message. One advisor, scrolling through social media, sighed, "Leavitt's personal stories are dominating. We need AOC to speak up," another said. Sitting in a corner, AOC finally spoke. "I'll post about the Green New Deal focus on green jobs," she said. But her voice lacked conviction. Her follow-up post on creating a fair economy with green jobs for all gained only a few thousand interactions, dwarfed by Leavitt's rapidly spreading content, capitalizing on the momentum. Leavitt shared a short Instagram video with her 533,000 followers. "AOC wants to cancel student debt, but who pays for it? People like Anna working 12-hour shifts without a degree," she said. "The Congressional Budget Office says it would cost $1.6 trillion. That's workers' tax money." Her direct message hit hard. The video racked up over 3 million views and thousands of supportive comments, many praising her for speaking for the working class. The showdown between Karoline Leavitt and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at the Newsmax studio was more than a political event. It reflected the deepening divide in American discourse and the power of narrative. Leavitt tackled topics like Latinx identity, abortion, education, immigration, and the economy using data like the Pew Research stat showing 68% of Latinos oppose the term Latinx, and real-life stories from people like Maria in Arizona. In Carlos in Texas, her practical approach sharply contrasted with AOC's more idealistic tone. While AOC advocated for fairness, Leavitt focused on tangible issues, jobs, safety, and education, resonating with voters who felt unheard by progressive policies. This wasn't just a clash of ideologies, it was a case study in effective communication. The key takeaway in today's divided America? Real listening and grounded storytelling connect more than abstract ideals. Whether it's Lisa, a parent in New Hampshire, demanding better education over vague equity promises, or Latino voters in Texas shifting toward Trump. Voters are signaling they want real solutions, not slogans. Karoline Leavitt delivered that message into anyone hoping to make real change can learn from how she did it.